What's up, everybody? We're going to do something just a little bit different than the normal dead card game content that's on this channel regularly. I'm a big proponent of the Dragon Ball Super card game that is currently being released, and I'm an admin for the Turles group specific to the card game. Turles is my favorite Dragon Ball character, hands down, and so the fact that it's finally a deck is really exciting. The admins have been kind of just releasing deck profiles for the page and just showing off what their lists are, because we're all a little bit different. So I thought I'd do a little video for mine. You're welcome to enjoy it here, but it's just going to go to the group too. To get right going, it is a Turles deck. I'm not going to get super into some of the ins and outs of some of these cards, since Charles has already put a video out for his profile before me. I'm sure Jewel will have something that he's interested in as well, and other people. I mean, we're all in the group, we know what the cards do, but Turles' effect as a leader, being able to look at the top 5 of your deck and take a life to get a Crusher Core, really helps keep the hand advantage high. It helps keep the cycling in Crusher Core cards really strong, and his awakened condition is if you have 4 or less life, or if your opponent has 3 or more life face up. So this actually triggers really easily. There's a lot of times you can awaken, turn 2, some decks even earlier than that. So it's a really cool awaken condition where you can really get flipped over really fast. The backside leader doesn't really do a ton, but he does let you pick what life they take, which is really strong, especially when their life is face up. Sometimes they'll have like a super combo or a negate in life, and you can tell them to just take a different one instead of that one. It's really strong. And the ability to buy back Fruit of the Tree of Might every turn is also huge. That's the best furthering destruction choppa card in the game, and to be able to make sure we have it every single turn. It's, like with Majin Vegeta or something like that, every time your opponent attacks, you have to kind of assume that they're going to hit you with that. But in Turles, you have to know that they're going to do that. That's what he does. So it really helps cheese negates out of their hand for no reason too, and really helps keep the pressure up for a deck that doesn't have a super dedicated finisher. It's kind of an attrition thing, and if you can have them burn in negates every time your leader swings, it's pretty powerful. Just for local play here, I have my Tree in a different sleeve, but Tree is kind of the bread and butter of this deck. It goes on your opponent's side of the board. It isn't a field card, so it doesn't remove with field card effects or with other fields. As long as all your energy is green, at the start of each of your opponent's turns, they flip one of their life up, and you go get a fruit from your deck, which is just huge. Again, helps keep hand advantage up, helps keep the value going. The first sort of debate that people had within the group was, what's the unison we play? And most people have settled on that it's Demigras, and I agree. I think Demigras is part of the reason that you can play green in this game. The fact that he can take life instead of tokens is huge. The fact that he is a 1 cost is huge. Plus, when I return, his -3 is just double removal, which is also great for board clearing or getting rid of problem targets. I just run this at 4. It's my only unison in the deck. Personally, I really enjoy it. I would, if I were to play best of 3 builds, I would side an additional unison, just kind of depending on what I thought the meta was going to be. I actually do think Raditz is kind of a decent unison if the meta is a little bit slower. If you're playing against something that's kind of going to stall the game out, Raditz giving all your cards grit every turn is, when they can be 35k, 40k double strikes on their own, is huge. I run 2 Dodorias. I don't see many people that have this in the deck, but I do like the opportunity to know that I have a way to take a little bit of life if I need to, in addition to my leader to try to awaken a little faster. Also, just a 1-drop double strike to deal with unisons and stuff like that is huge too. It's not very often that this is going to get counterplayed, and if you can pop a unison down to 1 token or something before you play your big cards, I think it's a valuable card. Getting into the actual Crusher Core package, I run 4 of the 1-drop Turles Invader of Earth. When you play it, flip one of your opponent's life face up, and then every time it swings, combo with the top 5 cards of your deck, any of them that are Crusher Core. The number of times where I can swing this for 4k, hit 2 super combos or something, and it's suddenly a 24k draw me 2 cards, plus if I had the other Turles out, it becomes a 34k. Is just huge. This card is a big part of why I think if you're going to play the Crusher Core package, that this package is any good. I run 4 of Cacao. It's just a Crusher Core super combo. It's fetchable off the leader. It's comboable off the 1-drop. Nothing really to say about it. It's a 0/10, draw 1 card. I have seen some people that have been making this Gohan or like 2 and 2. I think that's a very valid choice. Gohan is a great super combo, but I don't, at least with the Crusher Core build that I've got going on right now, this is where I've ended up. As the first of the actual usable Crusher Core dies, just when you play him, just look at the top 3 for another one. He just replaces himself for free. He's literally a +1. And if not, he's just a 9k, which is one of the bigger bodies. He can be a 19k, which means your opponent at least has to burn one card to combo over him. I like dice. He doesn't do anything really interesting after he's on board. He's just a flat 9k, but keeping the advantage up is good. I run the beans at 3 and 3, Raisin and Lakasai. They're both good. I have seen some people that have been going to 4 with these. I think that's a valid idea as well. If I weren't running Dodorias, I would probably have these 2 at 4 and 4. Each one of them searches your deck for the other one. One of them draws you cards and plays cards too, so that's good. It just helps thin the deck out and make sure that the pieces in your deck are actually valid, good draws, and you're not going to burn them on drawing beans. Plus one of them's a blocker. A free blocker is always good. Another one of the cards that makes Turles good is Crusher Core Commander, the Arrival Turles that doesn't have a rival. If you got 2 Crusher Core cards in your combo area, you pay 1 green and you play him from your hand. When you do, you get a bottom deck a card, draw 2, he gets plus 5,000 power, and you flip one of your opponent's life face up. This card just reactivates a fruit. It helps with your awakening. You can do this on turn 1. And say your opponent went first, they have a life flipped up. You do this as your first thing, they're already at 2, started their turn, they'll be at 3. If you do anything else, they could be at, that would be flipped up as well. It just piles up really quickly. Plus, a 20k until the end of their turn. So he's a little harder to kill on the crackback too. This is one of the sort of like hotter debated spots within the deck too. I have this at 2 of. I had it at 3, I had it at 4. I've found that I'm happy at 2. I might try putting it at 3 again, but right now the deck I think is 51 cards, maybe 52. I think it's 52 cards, and one of them's tree, so 51 on the deck. But I think that I see it often enough that it's not the end of the world. Normally this is a card that I see one time and that kind of ends the game, but I could see running this one at 3. When you have 3 or more Crusher Cores on the board, it's just a 2-drop. It gives all your Crusher Core plus 10k, and then every time it attacks, it KOs something. So it just helps with clearing that board, establishing the, removing blockers, things like that. It is critical. So a 25k crit without fruit makes it a 45k double strike crit. He's just a big body. I run the Masayan Secret Rare. Just the on 1 cost removal for me is huge. There have actually been a couple of games where I've focus, please. There have been a couple games where I have played this for the 5 costs to go for dual attack triple strike for game, or to like against blue I've used it to just wipe like a baby unison off the board. So it has merit outside of just being removal, but I think this is a valid secret rare. I have seen some people try Kai, I've seen people try the Boo secret rare, and all of them I think are fine. The Boo secret rare is the closest to being like the one that's for this deck, but I think that I'm happy with this one. Roshi needs no introduction. I mean, this card's on a lot of people's list of cards to ban even, but he's just in your drop, pay 1 to get an extra card back from a discard pile. we're green, so Dormant Potential is one of the big options for that. Additionally, though, Kill Driver or Fruit is a huge thing to be able to get back with this. 2 Beerus. This is where we're getting into more of the cards that I just run in my deck. 2 Beerus. There's one other guy in the group who does talk about this pretty regularly, and I think this is a great thing to have in the deck. Off of Lakusai, when you play this one, you search your deck for a raisin, then you draw 1 card, then choose a card in your hand and discard it. You just discard this Beerus and then it comes into play. So now you got a 15k body in addition to your Crusher Core cards. So I think it really helps with keeping the value up in the deck. Really helps keep the pressure on. If you don't see it, you don't see it. It's just free. Worst case scenario too, you can pay 1 to use it as a removal from the drop area, which is nice too. Another hotly debated card, but I personally won't run green without this. I know it's hard in Crusher Core to use this because you can't use the actual Crusher Core guys with this guy, but it's often enough that I'll use the Counterplay Frieza and then get this out, and it's just worth it. A 20k that warps cards out of their hand every turn is just pressure that I like to have. Sometimes you can't rely on keeping the weak little Crusher Core cards on the board long enough to use your big 4-drop Turles and things like that, so having something else that's a low converted cost is a great option. This to play it, you just pay 1, and then as long as you have 3 or more energy and you remove 5 cost worth of green cards, you can play it for 1. Every time it swings, you remove 1 card from your opponent's hand to the discard pile, and it has indestructible, so it can't die in battle. It can't be swung back on. Against unisons, this card I'll just swing into a unison every turn, and that way they can't combo. They can't do anything to plus off of this. They just have to take that. And then following up with that card, I do run 4 Friezas. Again, I think as a green player, you should have multiple of those in the deck. I don't think you should play without these. You probably could do 3, but I'm always going to play this one at 4 personally. Free counterplay, kill a 7 cost or less is just massive. Just being able to in a game just the other day, I was playing against the Soul Striker deck, and they hard paid 5 to play the baby ape negate, and then I just counterplayed it with this, and he was like, okay, I paid 5 for that. And we paid nothing. And then I paid 1 to turn it into Zamasu and punish him for it. Secret Identity Masan. I mean, everyone has to play this. To be able to wipe the board for free is huge. For us especially, we need to be able to deal with Black Masan. Being able to get that card being on the board really does hamper things, so having this as another out to that is really huge, or to be able to remove like a wall of blockers or something like that as well. Into some of the extra cards. Kill Driver, I run it 2. I side a 3rd one. I know that Charles loves this card. I like this card a lot too, but it is one that I find that I'm not always in need of. Man, just focus thing. Come on. Flip a life face up is huge, but then to get the plus 10k is big. Draw a card is good. The removal is situational, but it's nice to have. So this is a card, well, I'll get one, I'll hold it, and if I need it for to pull a big threat off the board, I'll use it. Or if I'm just trying to push for game to add an extra 10k for 1, these are essentially just those old draw Gokus at that point, but they'll flip a life face up, which means I can then fruit afterward. And then, of course, Fruit of the Tree of Might, the sort of reason to play Turles. I run 3 of it because you fetch 1 out of your deck every turn and you can buy it back with your leader. I don't think you need to run 4 unless you were trying to play a deck that didn't run the Crusher Core package and we're just going with the Turles good stuff. You might want to consider 4, but for the actual Crusher Core, 3 is plenty. But Activate Battle, which is incredible too. If your leader's a Crusher Core and all of your energy is green, and you choose one of your opponent's life, flip it face down, choose one of your leader cards or battle cards, it gets plus 20k power for the battle. And if the card you picked is a Turles, it also gets double strike. So your leader can get double strike, your Turles cards can double strike. Or worst case scenario, you can just have your beans be 24Ks or 34Ks if they have another Turles on the board. So it's just a great weapon for the deck. It's the best Champa card in the game, and is absolutely the reason that this deck has merit. And then 4 Dormant Potential Unleashed. Again, just like Roshi, this card doesn't need introduction. This is another card that people were like, oh, this needs banned. I disagree. It's the only card that keeps green, even a deck worth having in card sleeves. But it is huge, especially because if your opponent plays a Black Mass Saiyan on turn 1, and then you negate a leader swing or something like that, you can play this to kill the Mass Saiyan, and you're still going to go for your turn. Or you can it doesn't negate the attack, it just means they can only attack one more time. So if they have a Mass Saiyan on the board, you swing, you play this, you kill that Mass Saiyan, then you can still do your arrival Turles after that and still not have a problem. I just think this card is huge. I've seen some people in the group ask, like, what would you replace this with? I physically don't think you can. You can't replace a Nimbus that's free that's also attached to a Crusher Ball. A Shocking Death Ball. You could, I guess, play Shocking Death Ball, but it still costs 1, or a life, and you have to have 5 in the discard pile. There's just no replacement for this. I think, unfortunately, as like a green player, it's just like, if you want to play green, you have to buy this. I know it's kind of an expensive card, but it's literally the card that keeps green in card sleeves. That's it for me, though. I've got a lot of games under my belt with the deck. It's got an incredibly high win rate for me. There are matches, obviously, that are hard where if you just can't keep things on the board, if they do consistently get through Mass Saiyans, blue is tough because just bouncing, cards that you pay energy for back to your hand is tough. But the pressure that this deck puts on, the number of times where my board is, a Zamasu, a Beerus, a Beans, a Crusher Core, both Beans, Cacao, a Dies, and a 1-drop or something like that. Like, the number of times that all of that is on the board is incredibly consistent. Same with Demigra, and that's 6, 7, 8, 9 attacks every single turn. And anytime that they're trying to clear that board is time that you're not taking life, and you're a deck that awakens without a specific life condition too. So it's just easy to protect yourself, to keep your life up, and to keep that pressure high enough that their debate has to be, do I clear the board off and not take 19Ks in the face next turn, or do I hit him for damage? And with Demigra on the board, you can mitigate, keeping these active by taking your own life too. So there's just a ton of versatility. There's a lot of that unfortunately just comes from green in general. There's not a lot that Turles itself brings to why green is good. But fruit and tree are a huge part of why that is. And the value of the Crusher Core. Matt Coombs put out that article about average converted energy costs, and he and I talked about this deck quite a bit too, and Turles has something like a 0.53, 0.56 converted energy cost, which is huge. Every card in the deck costs an average of half an energy, so it's just incredibly high value. It's one of the lowest in the game. Unfortunately, unlike like Vegex or something, the cards that we play have less actual impact. The moment you play them, you have to do something to make them better. But for now, I think Turles is great. I think it will probably be at like a competitive level. I think you could say this is like 1.5. I don't think it will hang, if you were to go to a regional or something, I don't think it would hang with like top tables. But for the same reasons that green does, I think that if you are a good green player, it will carry you far. Dormant Potential and Roshi by themselves make Dormant Potential, Frieza, Roshi, and Demigra as like a package, 20 or 18 cards by themselves just make green worth playing. And if you're good at mitigating damage and covering that on your own, understanding when green flourishes, I think you have a huge advantage over the actual card pool itself. And then Turles' effects of just being a 40k, 35k double strike every turn, on top of being just a good green deck, is huge too. I think he falls a little bit in the middle of being not quite as aggro as Majin Vegeta and not quite as just mid-range versatile as like Go Tanks, but I think because of that he's kind of a mix of both, and he's far more versatile, I think, than either one of those decks. But I don't think he does either one of those things as well as their decks themselves. But he's a great alternative. The Crusher Core themselves is a super cheap package. You run 4 SRs, 5, I guess 6 SRs in the deck if you don't run Dormant Potentials or Freezes or whatever. So if you wanted to build a really budget Crusher Core deck, you could, and just be able to play Turles with very little actual cost. You can still play Shocking Death Balls. You can play the new green negate that came in the draft box where you pitch a card, draw a card. That's just still another generic negate. Big Amor is a card that's seeing play in some decks now and works well with this too. I do think that siding actual negates into the deck is huge too, like Shocking Death Ball or something, because Dormant Potential is awesome, but it doesn't stop the current attack. And there's some times where you're taking a triple strike in the face, and if you don't have an actual negate, there's nothing you can do about that. But this is my deck. Everyone's a little bit different right now. I don't think the code itself has been necessarily cracked yet. There's one guy in the group who's been posting his deck lately who doesn't run the Crusher Core at all. There's some people who are running at like 4 ofs in their 55, 56 card decks. There's people like Charles who are doing the Xeno package. I think every deck has its merit. Even the Xeno package, which I don't run, I think has value. I think that especially at like 3 balls, 3/4 drop is huge. I don't personally like the 6 drop. I don't find too many opportunities where I want to spend 2 energy on just that card. But there are turns where like you'll play the 4 drop out, swing all your guys out, and then not be able to seal the game. And if you could put a ball underneath those 4 drops and become a fresh blocker after that, I think that would be, there's definitely merit to that. And I've had them in the deck like that. I cut them to take it down from 56 to 50 just to up the consistency a little bit. But I don't think that they're wrong to have in the deck. I do personally think the 6 drop is a little bit of a trap, but it's working for Charles, and it fits his playstyle really well. So it definitely isn't wrong. It's just not right for me. Anyway, if anyone has questions, you're always welcome to ask me, ask Charles, ask the group. We've got a real friendly community within the core here, and we'll keep trying to make Turles the best green deck in the game. Peace.